In Night of the Demons, Angela and Suzanne invite their fellow teenagers to party in an abandoned mortuary, but the body parts start flying when some of the group get possessed by demons. It all takes place on Halloween night, so perfect to finish off the Octoberthon. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. Happy Halloween. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Whoa, great dick, bro.
Not bodacious boobies, no.
Well, to change it up since you're not my big sister.
Very, very true. We'll talk about that in a bit. Yes, welcome everyone. This is the final episode of October. This will be get out publicly on Halloween. Or a day earlier on Patreon, but patrons will be getting a bonus episode on Halloween, so they still get something on the final day of the month.
Do they deserve it? Yes, because they pay money.
It's the simple what's the phrase I'm looking for? It's the simple
necessities.
Provide service.
Capitalism?
It's capitalism, yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I was trying to be fancy with how I phrased it, but the words just weren't coming to me, so yeah, it's capitalism. But yes,
it's a very pro-capitalism podcast, so...
Is it? If we could abolish the whole system, Tim, I'd be alright with it.
Instead, we implement some type of trick-or-treating system where, hey, if you wear a mask, people just give you money.
Yeah, sure. I'm alright with that. So yes, welcome everyone. We're here today on the final episode of October to round out the Octoberthon with Night of the Demons, which is a Halloween set movie from 1988. It's one that we've not got to before, obviously. So we're here to...
I could have sworn we did it before, but...
We definitely did not, no.
Okay.
I have seen it before. I've seen it once before this, but it wasn't for the show. It was just kind of a random... Okay. Probably about a decade ago now, if I was to guess.
So when you were about in your mid-30s?
I'm in my mid-30s now, you prick. Also younger than you. Something I feel like I have to point out every time you make an age joke for some reason. But yes, welcome. So yes, we'll start spoiler-free, of course, as we always do, and we'll warn you before we dive into the spoilies. But the basic gist of this one's quite simple. Spoilies, yes.
Okay.
I've said that before on here.
I don't know, I feel like I would have picked up on it. It's a very Nana way of saying spoilers.
Nana? Thought it was being more hip and young and down with what the kids say.
Nope, you're a Nana.
Look, just because you're a father of two now, stop trying to make me sound like a grandparent, alright? Just to make yourself feel better, okay? So... basic gist of Night of the Demons is that a bunch of teenagers on Halloween night go for a small party in an old funeral home, basically. An old funeral home and crematorium. And once there, some evil demon spirit possesses one of them, and it gets a bit Evil Dead-y, I suppose, is the easiest way to just describe it. But that's the basic gist of it. There's a lot of gratuitous nudity with some practical effects, and yeah, we'll get into it.
One in particular that might freak me out more than any other movie.
Interesting. We'll have to see what that is. But I guess we'll just jump straight into the question. Tim, well, first of all, actually, before I ask you how you found it, was this your first time watching it?
Oh no, I've seen this like I've definitely seen it a handful of times. Like, it's not like a staple. Like, it's not like I've seen it like 20 times or whatever. But I've definitely seen it, more than a few. Like, this is probably maybe between 4 and 5. I feel like, I probably saw it some point in my probably about early 20s. I remember having a friend of mine show it. That we used to watch like movies at his house, and I think at some point he was like, "Oh, like you never seen this? We gotta check it out."
During the Reagan administration, yeah.
Yes. Reagan's son, who's not as old. But yeah, I enjoyed it then, and then it's also since it is kind of a Halloween set movie, it's one that I always feel like I don't come back to every Halloween, but usually around the Halloween season, I'm like, oh, maybe this is one I should watch. So I feel like over the years, I watched it a handful of times, now and again. So yeah, it's I guess I'll go into my thoughts then about it.
Oh, please do. Yes, please do.
Because obviously, if I've watched it multiple times, then I must have some affection for it. I think this movie's a heck of a lot of fun. It's it's very cheesy, but again, this is at least for me, I assume we might be on a similar wavelength, but we'll see. You never know. But to me, this is the kind of 80s cheese that I like, that I actually kind of crave sometimes. It's a lot of fun. You got very over the top memorable characters, a lot of them just being like the biggest assholes that they can be, so those are always a ton of fun. And then there's just a lot of weirdness to it that I really like a lot. Yeah, and like you said, there's some practical special effects, which I actually think are, there's some that aren't outstanding, but I think there are, enough that are pretty fun, and some fun deaths, and it's a nice breezy 90 minutes, and again, it's set on Halloween, and you have people in costumes and stuff, so it does kind of get me in that fall Halloween vibe. So I enjoy this one quite a bit. I think it's a lot of fun.
And Linnea Quigley's boobs,
of course, yeah. Who I didn't really. I didn't really know her off the top of my head, but then I was looking at her IMDb, and I was like, oh, she's kind of she's horror royalty.
She's like a B-movie scream queen.
Yeah, she's done quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, if you look at her credits, particularly in the 80s and early 90s, she's in a lot of stuff. But yeah, so she's kind of the star. Not that she's necessarily the lead actor per se, but she's definitely the biggest name in the horror world coming out of this. So
she has a lot of the more memorable lines and scenes.
Yeah, well, the movie kind of makes Angela, or I say the movie, the series kind of makes Angela kind of the central one because of the sequels. But if I had
Which
to
I didn't even realize there was. I didn't even realize that there was. I thought there was a sequel, but I guess there's two, and
there's two.
A remake, I believe. But
yeah, I've not seen the remake. I've seen the sequel. I have it on Blu-ray. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I know. Scream Factory just put out. The second and third one on Blu-ray, so I probably will have to pick those up at some point.
Actually, my history with this series, even though I didn't know it at the time, I had actually already seen the third one some time ago. And when I say some time ago, I'm talking when I was 11. I saw the third one.
Oh, wow.
But I never realized it was part of a series, and didn't even when I saw this movie, because it had a different title in the UK, which was called Demon House. And it's really crappy. It's a really shit movie. But
not surprising.
But there was kind of just enough couple of things when I watched this that I recognized just one or two visuals that I sort of looked that movie up and realized, oh no, that is actually Night of the Demons 3 that I saw long ago and don't remember much of, but remembering it being very cheap and very crappy. But yeah, we'll talk about the sequel some other time though when we actually do them. But Night of the Demons, I do think it's fun. I agree that it's got that sort of horror cheese that I kind of like. I think if I'm going to critique it, is that I think once they all get to the party location, the building, the movie kind of stops having a structure at that point. And
Sure.
it's pretty, I won't say random per se, but there's no way we're going to recount the events that happen in most of this movie just in order, because they don't flow in a way where you can remember the order of them. They're very haphazard, who's grouped off with who, then when they run into each other again, and then who runs it, then they split again, then they run into each other. There's a lot of back and forth like that. So the structure's a little bit off, but there is fun practical effects. The dialogue isn't great, and the performances aren't necessarily great to go along with it either, but it's kind of over that line of just being fun cheesy as opposed to painful to sit through. So when certain characters say kind of weird over the top lines, it's more fun by and large than it is cringy. So yeah, I would say I have a good time, but it's definitely it's got a ceiling. It's got a ceiling where I'm like, yeah, I recommend this for what it is, but it's
Oh, sure.
there's a reason why it's not brought into conversation when you're talking about the Evil Dead movies, is because it's not as good as those. So
yeah. I think it's a fun party movie. Like I did watch this by myself, but I do think the best setting might be kind of if you're hanging around with a couple of friends and you want to watch a couple of horror movies, preferably around the Halloween time. Like this is a fun one to throw on, and you don't have to play super close attention, but it's fun. You'll have some laughs and whatnot. I think it's good for that.
Yeah, we got a whole cast of characters here. We have our main innocent girl, Judy, who's dressed very innocently. Like she's got the blue and white kind of maid. What Disney character is she doing?
I want to say Alice from Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can see Alice. Yeah, I was racking my brain as I was like, okay, this is definitely a Disney like princess or something, but I couldn't quite place which one it was. So you got her.
That's why you got to get Matt on the line. Matt, who's this?
No. The less talk about Disney on this show, the better. Thank you very much. You've got her date, who is Jay. Thank you. You've got kind of this oddball trio. One who I kept calling Bebop throughout the movie because, well, one is because he had like a fake pig nose on at the start.
Yes.
But two is because his personality was kind of like a Bebop and Rocksteady.
That tracks, yeah.
So
yeah.
I was just calling him Bebop. But that's not his name. His name's Stooge, but still, I was calling him Bebop.
I always forget his name because I always think it is something pig related. Like when I was trying to think, it's like, oh, like his name is like Ham or Pork or something like that, right? And it's like, no, it has nothing to do with that. It's just he just wears a pig nose for most of the movie.
It's just it's Halloween outfit. He's going as a pig. Well, just the nose, I suppose, but that's what it is. And then he comes with a guy named Roger, who's our one black character, who I can't really talk about that till spoilers, but so he's there. He's dressed as a pirate, I think. And then they come with a woman named Helen, I think was her name. And then you've got the two girls who are throwing the party, which is Suzanne, played by Linnea Quigley, who's kind of got this, I don't know, old school but slutty pink outfit on. And then Angela, who's got sort of like a black wedding dress style get up. So that's your kind of main character. And then of course you've got the other guy who wants Judy, but is kind of, he shows up being kind of aggressive about it at the start. So he seems like the dick in the movie, and that's Sal is that character. So that's all the main cast, I think, from
that's right. I mean, unless you want to talk about the old guy.
No, I apologize. I forgot about a pair. So Sal's friend is dressed as a doctor. He's a dude. I don't even know what his name is. And then his girlfriend is dressed in green. She's in a green spandex thing. I don't even know what it is. But she's there too. I forgot about them because they come up later. Who knows what their names are?
They're the most forgettable, I would say, of the bunch.
Was it Franny and Max? Because I'm seeing a Franny and Max in here. I don't know. I feel like I've never seen an Asian woman named Franny before, but I mean, if that was her name, then that was her name.
That sounds about right. It was the 80s.
Okay, yeah, she is. It's her photo. The dude doesn't have a picture of himself, but she does. So, okay, I think that's who they are. Max and Franny.
Yeah. At the very least, I'll give them at least a little bit of credit for being like somewhat diverse cast. Like, at least it's not entirely all white people.
No, that's true. I've got some more thoughts on that, but I have to save them for spoilers.
Of course, yeah.
But I do have thoughts on the diversity of the movie. So yeah, you've got a sort of interesting mix of a cast. Some of the guys are just complete assholes and horn dogs. Some of the girls are just really flirty and slutty. I mean, the opening of the movie for Linnea Quigley Suzanne is that she's distracting the two guys working in a store by intentionally bending over and showing her underwear, whilst Angela cleans out the store for all the supplies they want for the party. Like, that's how this movie opens, more or less, right? It's not the very first scene, but it's like the introduction to that character. So it's like, okay, we're doing sleaze, so if you're in the mood for a sleazy good time, you're going to get some of it here. So
I do like at least that she kind of like I feel like she owns her sexuality a little bit. You know, like she's you know, she's not afraid to be like, you know, hey, you know, I like the way I look and I'll use it, you know, to my advantage if these horn dogs want to, you know, glare at me or whatever. Like,
one could argue exploiting her sexuality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hers to exploit. I mean, it's fair game, I suppose, but very, very much a little tactician, shall we say? At least early on. So that's the rundown of the cast, and there's an old man we'll talk about who's in the opening of the movie, who has a memorable couple moments. It has to be said. So
yeah, almost has literally nothing to do with the plot of the movie. I always forget that, like, oh yeah, this is a thing in the movie.
Yeah, he basically just bumps into one of the characters at the start, and that's it. Yeah. And then you just see him again later on, just as like a little joke scene, and that's about it. So but no, it is a fun time. Like I just don't want to oversell it as like one of the great lost gems of the 80s, because it's kind of like, well, it's fun. It's not one of the best movies of the 80s by any stretch of the imagination. It's not up to that kind of standard, but like you say, it's a fun 90 minutes, and there's some fun practical effects, and some of the characters are memorable. I feel like it's kind of in the middle of, you know, it's not like a, you know, like a must-watch Halloween movie where, you know, it's kind of broken through the mainstream, but I wouldn't say it's like, you know, like a hidden gem either. Like, most horror fans will know of it. You know, even if they haven't seen it, they probably maybe at least know the reputation, or have seen like the cover art or something. Not to be confused, of course, with Night of the Demon, the movie we did on a bonus episode.
That was a Sasquatch one?
That was a Sasquatch one. That's the one where the dude gets his dick ripped off.
Yeah. Yep. If you're not on the Patreon, what are you doing? You're missing gold like that.
There be blood in them penis hills. So I suppose we'll give the spoiler warning then, so we can dive in and talk about everything that happens in the movie and talk about the characters. So spoilers from this point on for Night of the Demons. Credit to Roger, the black character, because he was kind of like so underdeveloped. Like it felt like the movie was mostly ignoring him in that first like half hour, that I thought he was definitely going to die first and live up to the stereotype. And then somehow he ends up being the final boy along with the final girl. He's one of two survivors at the end. He makes it all the way to the end, and I was stunned. I was like, it's almost subverting my expectations here. So fair play.
Yeah, no, he actively like makes some smart decisions. Like as soon as things get
he wants out immediately. As soon as the first sign of something spooky's going on, he's like, I want out of here.
Yeah. You know what's funny is I actually watched this like quite early this morning, just because I was hoping to watch it last night, but then ended up not having that much time, and then scheduling and stuff, had to make sure get it watched before we record tonight. So I watched it like early in the morning when I woke up to take the dogs out, and I do have the Blu-ray for this, but
wait, were you watching it like? Did you have, like, in the Honey I Shrunk the Kids, he's got the helmet and he's got the things dangling in front of him? Did you have the phone dangling off the helmet as you were walking the dogs?
No, it wasn't. I got up. So I mean, not that anyone cares, but I usually have to get up early because the dogs usually like to go out like around 6 or so, and then it was still like a little dark, so I basically watched the movie after I took them out, and then I ended up taking them for a walk afterwards, and then. Pretty much like right before everyone else in the house started waking up. But so what's funny though, and again, no one's gonna care about this, but what's funny though is I do have the Blu-ray for it, but it was in the room that Gemma's sleeping in, so I couldn't go and get it. But it is streaming on Shudder, so
where most people keep their horror movies, with the second child of the family in their room.
Well, again, I can't stress this enough, how little people will care about this, but I did used to have all of my movies on the shelves that are next to my TV, but in the living room. But then I took those out, so that I could actually put comic books on those shelves because I like looking at comic books, I like looking at the spines of them, and then so I moved because I have too many comic books in my closet, so then I moved all the movies and stuff to the guest room closet, which is where Gemma is sleeping right now, as she's kind of going through her sleep training. But I am actually reorganizing my closet now. So
wait, hold on. I've got questions here. Hold on. Before you be very further. Wouldn't this just be Gemma's room then? Why is it the guest room still?
Because
is there another room you've got ready for her in a couple of years? Like,
well, she's gonna her and Wyatt are gonna bunk together in the same room, but they're kind of their sleep schedules are a little bit off, and Gemma still kind of cries a little bit in the night, so don't want to.
Okay. But that's not permanent, right? Eventually, one of them's getting the guest room, right? I assume.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just whether they're both toddlers or whatever. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that was important. Anyway, so you didn't want to do a Mission Impossible style heist to get past your sleeping daughter.
Yes.
So you instead.
So I went to watch it on Shudder because it's it's available on Shudder. Oh. And I don't know if you know this, but when you turn on the Shudder app, at least on the TV app. There's that, but the when you do it through, I don't think it does this on your phone, but like when you play the app on the TV, there's a section where it is playing like live movies.
Oh yeah. It's on the browser version as well.
Yeah. So here's the whole point of this long story that no one cares about. When I turned the app on,
they love it.
When I turned the app on, what do you think was playing? But Night of the Demons.
But at the very end,
it was like around the scene where like Roger is climbing like the barbed wire.
So pretty close. Yeah, that's 5 minutes before the end. Yeah.
But I just I chuckled to myself and I said, "What are the odds?" And then I said to the Shudder app, I said, "Thank you for putting this movie on, but I must start at the beginning."
Oh dear. I always bug me whenever I have Shudder and that like sort of live stream channels playing. I always think like, why don't they have like a schedule you can look at? So if you want to not so you can like, obviously all the things that are playing on it will be on their streaming service anyway, but more just so you know when the next thing is going to start, because you never just show up and something just started. It's always halfway through or whatever. It'd just be nice to have, hey, the next movie's starting at this time. Just so if you want to do a bit of a random spin the wheel, see what movie you land on kind of night, you could, but
preach it.
Anyway, so yes, Night of the Demons. We're getting into it. So the movie, after a little animated intro where there's like some drawings of like a spooky house and stuff,
I like that. It's getting me in the mood for
it's Halloween. It's very Halloween. It's very Halloween-y, not like the movie Halloween, just like the vibe of Halloween, the holiday in general. And we're introduced to Bebop, Roger and Helen, who are driving. And Bebop's just being awful to everyone in the car. He's a piece of shit. Like, right away, you get it. But he notices that there's an old man walking down the side of the street. And he decides to swap places, because he's the one driving. He swaps with the girl. And he decides this is a fine opportunity to pull down his trousers and show off his underwear, which has got a pumpkin on it. And he says something, he yells something at the old man as they're driving slowly past. And the old man's very bitter. And he's like, "Oh, the effing kids, I hate them. I hope they all rot in hell." But that's not why this scene is memorable. This scene is memorable because a minute later, Judy... Well, actually, someone else bumps into him, right? And drops all of his stuff, right? Because he's carrying some groceries. And he's picking them up and he's like moaning and complaining. And there's a tap on the shoulder and it's Judy, our main girl, our final girl. And she's offering to help him pick things up. And he tells her to piss off. Right? And the way he tells it to piss off is he says, "I don't want your help, you little whore."
Pretty normal reaction.
I'm like, okay, this old man's my first favorite character of this movie. I hope there's a lot more of them. There wasn't. There's one more scene of him, but this did get a reaction out of me. Luckily, Judy's little brother tops it in about 2 minutes.
But yeah, I mean, we can't like so obviously he's already like dialed up to 11 there, but then as if you couldn't already tell that, wow, this guy maybe might not be the nicest person around. He starts picking up his groceries and then starts doing almost like a little villain rant or something where he's like, oh, those kids will pay, as he picks up razor blades and an apple. like oh gee, where this is going.
So Judy goes home and she's like talking on the phone with her date, was Jay. She's like, hey, I'm not ready yet, I was staying after class, blah blah. And he's explaining on the phone that they're not going to the school dance, they're going to go to this private party thrown by Angela, who's a classmate. And Judy thinks, oh, she's a bit of a weirdo, but okay, you want to go, I'll go. And I mean, actually, this starts off being kind of sleazy because she does this thing where she's still got her tops on, but she pulls down her underwear, like her panties, and like just bends over for the camera just to get a nice, good look as she's getting changed. And then she's walking around in her bra, and she opens her closet, and her little brother, who's like 12, 13, he's got a Halloween mask on, and he scares her. And then she screams and says, oh, you little shit, what are you doing in here? This isn't right. He pulls off his mask and says, whoa, sis, those are bodacious boobies. So, I mean, I mean, look, the only reason why this isn't even funny, this is pretty funny. The only reason why it's not as funny as it might be is because we've actually already seen this be topped in another movie. If you remember Elves...
Yes, that's what it was.
Yes.
I feel like maybe that's why I thought we did this movie before, because I'm pretty sure we had like a lengthy conversation about this weird like interaction between a brother and sister, like complimenting the sister's body. Yeah,
because Elves was where the little brother said, you've got huge effing tits and I'm going to tell everyone I saw them.
That's right.
That was Elves. So that's more extreme, so that therefore is the king of this type of moment. But I did get a good chuckle out of this weird interaction. And honestly, I'm actually a little upset this kid brother's not in more of the movie, because he has a lot of like little just try hard lines in his couple of scenes here, as he's like talking to Sal, who tries to like knock on the door for Judy. And then he says a few things to Jay when he comes to pick her up. He's I think Jay's saying, oh, you're lucky to have her as a big sister. She's such a nice girl. And he goes, oh, yeah, because you're dating her for her personality and not her huge cha-chas.
And I mean, I hate to say this because it is problematic, but I couldn't help but laugh when I think it's like Jay or something, that when he walks away and he just like... he says a bad word for people that we don't say anymore, but I don't know, just like coming off him and like his delivery, I thought it's funny in that moment, even though
I'm actually not sure what word you're talking about. What type of person used to get described with this word?
It's a hateful word used for gay people. He says it under his breath, so maybe it's I watched it with captions.
I wasn't sure if it was that or the R word or a racial slur. I wasn't sure what genre of word we were in there. Sorry.
So I mean, obviously, not a good word to say. We don't say it anymore. But in the context of the time and place, like just like in his delivery of it, it was very amusing to me.
Okay. So,
he's cancelled though. For
obviously, yeah. I mean, that character ends up being a bit of a cock anyway as the movie goes on. So,
and also, what's really weird too about these, because we're talking about the scenes with the brother. So his whole interaction with the other character, Sal, the kind of like sleazy. So yeah, this guy.
This is the guy who wants Judy and shows up to try and just find out where she's going, and ends up trying to bribe the little brother. To which the little brother says, a measly quarter to betray my beloved sister? And then I think he takes a $1 bill afterwards and just offers the information. I'm like, okay, he didn't have to go that high when your betrayal, did he?
But I just think it's so funny because, like, doesn't it seem like the movie is setting up that, like, this is going to be, like, a bad guy, like he's gonna be a creep that's like stalking them, and then it ends up kind of making him like almost like a hero, like... I
think that's the point. It's trying to swerve you later that while he's a bit of a sleazeball, he ends up trying to like help later when people are in danger. Whereas Jay, Well, he doesn't even get a chance to help people. He doesn't, like, he's kind of just killed before he knows that there's anything actual creepy going on. But he's just a dick in a different way before that, where he ditches Judy for not wanting to have sex and locks her in a room for some reason.
I wasn't sure if did he actually lock her in there, or is it just like the house?
Yeah, honestly, yeah, it may not have been him. It may have been spooky stuff that locked her in the room.
But and like even before like spooky stuff like starts going down, like he's like a real piece of shit because they're just like dancing and he's dancing with his girlfriend and then like
That's right.
just looks over at another girl and is like, see ya.
Yeah, he looks over at Linnea Quigley dancing all slutty and he's like, yeah, I'll dance with her instead. And I'm like, this is a red flag, Judy. This is what we call in the business a red flag.
It's not even like she like pulled him away and was like, oh, come on, one dance or something. He was like, oh, what can I do? He was like, he was just like, I'm actively choosing to stop dancing with my girlfriend and go dance with Linnea Quigley.
So, yeah, other key points from all this family stuff before Judy leaves her house is the mum makes these little chocolate treats that look like little shits from like a small animal. It's very weird, and I'm on Jay's side when he says, "No, I don't think I will. I'm okay, thanks." They don't look very appealing. No. Meanwhile, in the middle of all this, I think in between some of these scenes is when we get the introduction to Suzanne and Angela, who are at the store robbing them blind. With the power of panties. Yeah.
And I believe it's not just like the clerks working there that are looking at him, but they seem to have like entranced like pretty much every guy.
Yeah, every man in this. Even though this is meant to be someone in high school, so she's meant to be like 17, every single man, no matter their age, is just staring at her ass and just oogling and aggling. Honestly, the thing that got me is that Angela, who's going around and just taking stuff off the shelves and putting it in this big bag, I'm like, it's like a big sack, and I'm like, why is not? It's not like the shop's empty. Like there's actually a lot of people like taking stuff and up and down the aisles, and I was like, why is no one reacting to her just shoving stuff in this big sack? She's clearly stealing it. Not that I'm saying they'd rat on her or anything, but you would think at least one of the housewives or something who are just doing their shopping would look over and be like, at least give her like an eyeball, just like a like seriously. I don't know. Very weird. Also, I could be wrong, but like I was trying to pay attention to what she was picking up, and some of it was like it was like snacks, it was candy, it was drinks and whatever. But I'm sure at one point she picked up a packet of spaghetti, which I thought was a weird. Like it's not like they're going to. I mean, maybe they were going to cook something later before some of them got possessed. I don't know, but.
Well, maybe she thought if like the seance didn't really pan out, she could do that game where like everyone closes their eyes and you pass like spaghetti around and you're like, these are the intestines of a dead man.
I was going to make a joke where she was going to tell people to stick spaghetti up their bum, but then you said something that was almost as weird, to be honest.
You know what game I'm talking about? Like everyone closes their eyes and like you pass around these bowls with like they'll have like peeled grapes and they'll be like, these are the eyes of a, and then
I'm not sure spaghetti would be a good pick for that.
It's supposed to be intestines, but I don't know. It's
but she'd cook them, you mean, first?
Right, yes.
Okay, yes. I was imagining the hard spaghetti.
No, sorry.
Like, why would anyone mistake that for intestines? I'm pretty sure I know it was spaghetti. Maybe you could convince me it was like bamboo or something. I don't know, but
this is the bamboo that made a panda starve to death because they couldn't reach it. I don't know.
Pandas can reach out. They can climb. They're climbers.
Oh, pandas can climb. Yeah.
It's
one thing people ought to know.
It's the only thing I know about pandas. They climb and eat bamboo, and they're endangered. Anyway, on you go.
And there's also like like back in the 90s, I don't know if you remember that show When Animals Attack.
I remember it existing. I don't know if I ever actually watched it.
It's literally just footage of people getting attacked by animals. But I remember there was like a clip of like a guy's like sitting like with his back to a panda cage at a zoo, and like the panda just starts like mauling him, and like the guy is like starts flopping, and
there was that, and there was also just the funny home movie shows, and those are all dead now because YouTube exists. People just put them on YouTube themselves. But in the 90s, you had to send them into a TV studio, and they'd pick the best ones to put into
it's true,
some montages and stuff.
It was usually just some guy getting hit in the balls with something.
Which is, imagine how many shit ones they got though. Like the people employed to look through all the videos they got, but it must have been a depressing, soul crushing job.
I sent one of our episodes in. I never heard back.
Well, I think the fact that those shows were already extinct by the time we started this was probably your first mistake, Tim.
Possibly.
Yes. Anywho, so it sets up them. It also sets up that the three people we already met in the car are on the way to the party. Judy and Jay pick up Jay's like friends, the guy and the girl. Was it Franny and Max? And despite the fact that the other three were in a car and going past the old man, and then Judy bumped into the old man before she even got home to get dressed and changed to then leave with Jay like half an hour, 1 hour later, however long that was. They somehow are only like a minute behind the other car when that car runs off the road and breaks down. I don't know. The timing here was a bit oogly boogly for my liking, Tim.
They might have stopped, for a little bit to catch an early showing of Back to the Future or something.
Tim, oh my god. Back to the Future was out in 1985. It's 1988. What?
Well, Back to the Future 2 then. I don't know.
That came out in 89. You couldn't even pick a period-appropriate film.
Well, I'm sure there were some, retro theaters that were playing the first one to get people amped for the second one.
Maybe.
Stuff plays. The stuff used to play in theaters longer. Everything is like, they're out in 2 months now, and then you got your digital doodads that play it back or whatever. But before there used to be people that would take the film reels and they would run from theater to theater, and then you had to make sure you got there just in time.
Yes, although VHS was definitely established quite heavily by 1988, so I don't think the runs were quite as legendary as 3 years later anymore, but yeah.
And VHS better than Blu-ray, I'll say it.
Do you own a VCR, Tim?
No. If anyone wants to send me one, just send me a message. I'll give you my address.
No one send him one. He's saying this to annoy me, but he doesn't want to watch fuzzy pan and scan copies of old movies.
But the Blu-ray copies are the discs are so slippery, and you're always dropping them when you're trying to put them in the system. The VHS, they were nice and sturdy.
That's why I went digital, Tim. I don't have to handle anything. My hands are free to touch whatever they please.
Ugh, so creepy.
I never said anything creepy. Any creepiness is happening in your mind. That's
yeah.
Yeah, that's on you.
Well, who has access to my mind?
I'm not even convinced you do, to be honest, at this point. So anyway, everyone ends up.
They arrive at Hull House.
Yes, which is an odd name for it, to be honest.
They're referencing the infamous movie Hell House.
But it wasn't Hell House. It was. But it wasn't Hell House or Hell House. It was Hull House.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, but they didn't want to get sued, so they had to change the letter.
Oh dear. So they get to the party, and it's we've described every character, right? This is everyone who goes. They've got a strobe light, they've got some music and a boombox, and
party.
They dance a bit.
Hell
drink
yeah.
Occasionally. Oh, and Sal's already there because he bribed the location of this party out with the little brother. He's already waiting in a coffin when they come in, and he pops his head out, which upsets Jay quite a bit. But hey ho, everyone calms down.
He wins the heart of Judy.
Not quite yet, because she still thinks she's with Jay at this point. They say, we get the scene where they're dancing, and Jay just starts to wander off to someone else like it's nothing.
So now the thing is kind of strange is you were mentioning before how Angela is kind of like the through line for the franchise.
And even in the first movie, she's the one on the poster. Like she's the one they put on the poster all the time.
And I feel like the poster has something about like Angela invited them to a party or something. Like it made it seem like she's very like devious or whatever. And
Actually,
it's kind of funny.
I'm going to read the tagline in the poster
Okay.
because it's quite famous for a reason, because it references some other movies. Angela's having a party. Jason and Freddy are too scared to come, but you'll have a hell of a time. So yeah,
I mean,
no mention
I'm
of
sold.
Suzanne. This is like both of them are throwing this party, but for some reason it's just Angela's the only one who gets the credit outside the movie.
Yeah. And so I wonder if maybe I'm trying to think if like I don't know if I've maybe seen parts of the sequels, if maybe I'm conflating some stuff that happens in there, but for some reason I always thought that we get more of an explanation that like for some reason, even though I've seen this like multiple times, like going in here, I thought that there was something where like she was trying to get revenge on these people, so like she was purposely like planning this party where, you know, she knew
I
that
don't know.
there were gonna be demons and stuff. But no, that doesn't really happen in the movie. It seems like, I don't know, like what are her goals? Like she just wants to do something kind of spooky.
I don't think Angela knows something real's going to happen. I think they're just going to do a seance because they think it'll be a spooky little silly thing to do. They don't think anything's going to actually happen. And then,
which is weird that like my memory was that it was more devious, that like she knew that this was happening and for some reason she wanted revenge to these people. Like I don't know, maybe I'm complaining with like a different movie or something. But
this was the horror movie equivalent of intentionally slipping on a banana peel.
Yeah.
Because they basically just like, for some reason Roger's already spooked out just by the like he finds the mirror and he starts acting really creeped out by it, and I'm like, it's just a mirror, what about this is creeping you out? But then Angela says, oh, this is a special mirror, and if we all sit down and do a seance in front of it, it'll turn black and then it'll show like whoever's talking to it in the future, kind of thing. And so they do it, it goes black, but then someone says something. But as just before it sort of goes back to normal, you see like sort of the demonic skull that's like in the reflection, and then you get, it's only once, but there is like a very Evil Dead shot where it's like a POV of like the spirit coming out of the furnace in the basement, and it kind of like you see like a POV flying around the hall shot. It's very much like the Evil Dead camera going through the woods. Maybe not quite as effective, but it's definitely the same kind of idea. So it comes out of the party, it looks around, and then it goes into Suzanne's mouth. It goes into Linnea Quigley's mouth, and then she's possessed, and immediately starts. She was already acting kind of slutty, but now once she's possessed, she's like, no, she's like crazy slutty kind of thing.
Yeah. I believe you also like get a shot in the mirror of, I forget who it is, but like someone like their face slamming against the mirror, but it was kind of a cool shot.
Yeah, and the mirror smashes at the end of the scene. Yeah, so yeah, they all just kind of like break off to go do different things, to go be couples somewhere. For a while, two of the couples are together, but then they split up. It leaves Linnea Quigley wants to go to the bathroom, Suzanne that is, and Bebop's like, hey, I'll come and protect you. And she's like, yeah, I feel like pork tonight. So there's all these pig references, but she doesn't actually take him out the bathroom with her. She just sort of leaves him outside, and he eventually gets bored and goes back to the main room. Which, by the time he does that, Angela's already set her hands on. Well, actually, this is an important detail. Angela's also possessed at this point, because before she goes to the bathroom, Suzanne walks over to Angela and makes out with her, and I guess passes the demon to her as well. So now they're both crazy and slutty and whatever.
And the guys are watching this like, hot dog.
Like,
we hit the jackpot.
Best Halloween ever is what they're thinking. But yeah, she sets her hands on fire, and that freaks out Sal, who sort of runs away. So when Bebop comes back, and Angela's like, hey, will you dance with me, Stooge? Was that his name? Stooge? Stooge? No, Stooge.
Stooge.
Not Spooge. Spooge is semen.
Very good.
And they start dancing, and she's like, kiss me, Stooge. So he's like, oh yeah. And the camera's sort of slowly spinning around him, and it's almost romantic with a strobe light going off in the fireplace. And then he starts like screaming because she's biting something, and then he sort of pulls back in horror, and there's blood dripping out of her mouth, and she eventually spits out his tongue. And it's like, ooh, nasty.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. I do wish I took the time to write down some of Stooge's lines, because I can't remember off the top of my head, but pretty much everything he said was like so dumb and gross, but like very funny.
Yeah, it's like at one point, someone says they smell something, and he says, "Oh, no, our man Roger over here just let out a slow bit of wind after he ate too much of that." So he said something just kind of gross, a bit of fart, and he's got a lot of like really crude lines like that.
He's lewd, he's crude, he's got attitude. He's the guy you love to hate.
So meanwhile, the two main couples, well, I say the main couple, which is Judy and Jay, are alone in like a medical room somewhere, and they're kissing, and she's trying to tell him to slow down, and then he basically says something to the effect of, "Well, you already had sex with that guy Sal's, and so why not me too? Let's go for it." And she's like, "Wait, why do you think I had sex with him?" So, "Well, you went out with him, didn't you? We went on one date."
To be fair, you can't argue with that logic. He's making some pretty sound points.
And she's like, "So you think I had sex with him?" And he's like, "Well, did you?" And she's like, "That's none of your business." Given how like innocent she seems to be in the rest of the movie, it does not feel like she did have sex with him. But the movie actually, I don't think
so.
Yeah, it never answers it though, does it? It never actually tells you if they did have kinky time together.
Which, you know what? We don't need to know. That's that's her prerogative. If she wants to tell us, she'll tell us. It does seem kind of weird because it's like I mean, I don't know if they mentioned it earlier, but it seems like they'd been a couple for a while. Like it felt like I didn't get the feeling that they like just started going out. Like, but I don't know, maybe they have. Like from these scenes, it kind of makes it seem like, oh, maybe they're not as.
Yeah, it feels like a first date.
Close. Yeah. But like before, it kind of felt like, oh, they must have been going steady for like at least a little while.
Yeah, at the start of the movie, it feels like they're already like a couple, and then by this point in the movie, it feels like no, this sounds more like a first date, and he's making some, shrewd moves to try and get things moving along. And then he gets angry and says, "Well, fine then," and just storms off. And either he locks the door or the haunted house locks the door. We're not really sure, but he ends up stumbling into a room with Linnea Quigley, right? Suzanne is on her own, and she's got this whole scene where she kind of like rips open her shirt like she's Superman just to reveal her boobs, right? And then it cuts.
Of course, you see this and you're like, oh, it's like Superman.
Yeah, Superman, but with tits. Yeah. Right? But that's the end of a scene that cuts away and it comes back. And there was also, she had a scene as well earlier where she was with Sal and she was trying to talk him into doing stuff. And he was like, "No, you're creeping me out. I'm leaving." But it comes back to her and she's like she's drawn a heart on her face with lipstick. And then she's sort of drawing it down her chest and like around her, almost spiraling into her nipple. And then, but I noticed during this shot that they looked like fake. And when I say they look fake, I don't mean they looked enhanced. I'm not saying she had I mean, maybe she did have a boob job, but like that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it looked like a prosthetic, right? And I was like, why does it look kind of fake? And it's because there's an effect moment at the end of the shot where she pushes the lipstick into her nipple as if there's like an opening for it, and then she brings her hand away and like as everything's just back to normal. So I think they built like a fake boob to do this with.
Well, dear Lord, I hope they did.
I did think though, like, couldn't you have got a magician to train her how to do this so it looked real?
Oh, sure.
But
yeah.
all she was doing was making it look she was pushing it in, but actually she was just taking it into her hand.
Come to think of it, I do think this was part of David Copperfield's act. He used to close with the lipstick in the nipple.
But you know what I'm talking about? There's lots of magicians who'll do that thing where they'll push an object into their hand or their forehead or wherever, and it's just an illusion, right? Yeah. But it looks like here they actually made some fake boobs to actually take in the item, which I thought was interesting.
For the life of me, I cannot tell you why, but for some reason, this scene freaks me out so much. I don't know. I hate it. Like, well, I hate it, but I'm also fascinated by it. But it's like there's something about it, like
confused, like, yet aroused. Yeah.
It's because like the thing is like it's not like gory, it's like there's no blood or anything.
No, it's kind of icky. It's just it's the thought of
about it. Yeah,
it's the thought of a part of a body that's not meant to opening up, and then closing again, and then there's something just inside there now. Just feels kind of weird. I don't know. There's something off putting about it.
Also, it's just like so like it's very random, and it's like why is she doing that? Like it's not.
Yeah, why? That's a very good question, Tim. Why?
It's not even like there's any other person there to like. It'd be one thing if it's like, oh, I'm gonna freak this person out by doing this, but it's like there's literally no one there.
It feels like a really just over the top excuse just to have her take her top off. To be honest, you know, like we want to have the character be topless, so we're going to do it. Not that it stops there though, because then Jay walks in and finds her, and she just goes over and unzips him, and he's like, okay, I'll stop talking about whatever I was talking about. I guess we're doing this. So
I think he had a funny line or something where he was like, you know, like good makeup job or something like stupid. Like,
so she unzips him, and for some reason, because again, it cuts away to another scene here, and then comes back to it. But for some reason, she goes over, she's on her knees, she unzips him, and there's a shot of him reacting, being like, "Well, who cares about anything else? I guess we're doing this." And then for some reason, the scene ends with him like going down out of frame, and I thought the whole point was she's about to give you a blowjob. Like I thought
what
that's
it seems like.
Yeah. But then he's like, no. I don't do the oral stuff. I just want to go down for normal sex. Thank you very much. None for me. But then they're having sex. She's on top of him. Actually, before she's on top of him, we get the rare, and I feel like I'm emphasizing the nudity too much here, but we get the rare 80s bush, because in the 70s it was very common. It wasn't as common in the 80s for this to happen, but
why didn't they mention that in Totally Killer? Seems like that was a missed opportunity.
Because it was like a PG-13 style movie, Tim, as the answer to that. But yeah, again, it's just the nudity in this for the most part is just kind of gratuitous, but that's almost part of the charm when you're watching like a movie like this now from the past.
For sure, yeah. I mean, there's like, yeah, I don't know, it's not like very PC, I guess, but like again, that's kind of the charm, and like, you know, you obviously you don't, you know, necessarily agree with like you know some of the stuff in it, but I don't know, there is a cheesiness, a sleaziness to it that is kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'm a horrible person.
I mean, you're definitely a horrible person, Tim, but I just don't know if this factors into it necessarily. But yeah, she's on top of him, they're having sex, and then she decides to start she starts acting weird and saying, "Hey, why are you looking at me like that?" And he's like, "Wait, what? No, we're having sex. I'm having a great time. Go, get on with it." And she just sort of keeps saying, "Stop looking at me like that. Stop looking at me like that." And then she pokes out his eyes with her thumbs. It's a bit of a, you know, a Michael Myers-esque moment.
And it's a very ironic death because he, you know, he loved using his eyes.
Most people love using their eyes, Tim, to be fair.
But he really, he was leering at like, yeah, the women earlier, so he clearly
True.
So it's very poetic.
So this is like a comeuppance for him, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll go with it. Meanwhile, the other couple have found a room with some coffins. And Max turns to Franny and says, "Hey, I never done it in a coffin before." And she's like, "Yeah, me neither." But let's get to it then. And then next time we cut back to them, she's just on top of him while he's lying in the coffin, and they're having a grand old time. So
he says something weird. I think where he says something like, "Oh, like be careful, like I can't bend that way" or something. I wasn't really sure.
No, she says that to him, which I thought was a really strange line, because literally in the moment when she says it, she's on top of him and he's not really even moved. Like, he's still just lying there. And I'm like, what's he doing that's making you think you're supposed to bend?
Like, there's only so much space in a coffin. Like, you can't really do much.
It was a weird line, a dialogue. But this is where Bebop, who has since himself, because he got his tongue bit off, that's turned him into... I would say that everyone else who gets killed turns into just more of a typical zombie. Like, it feels like they're not as smart as, like, Angela and Suzanne. Like, the rest of them just kind of saunter around and try and kill people.
Yeah, they don't have much of a personality.
But he shows up. He snaps the girl's neck, Franny, pushes her on top of him, and then just tries to shut the coffin lid as Max is screaming. But Max's arm is like outside the coffin, and like Bebop just keeps slamming it down and slamming it and slamming it until eventually the arm comes off. You don't actually see. I was hoping for a fun shot where you actually see it come down. You don't see that, but what you do see later is that when Judy's in this room later on, she runs into the arm and like kicks it away. So you do see the arm later, but you don't get like a great moment of it like actually separating, if you will. It is a fun sequence though. Although I will say at this point I was surprised with how quickly some of the characters were being killed. I was like, oh damn, we're really firing through these characters at this point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, when these two show up as zombies later, Max is missing his arm. He's walking around with one arm. So that's fun. Here's where the movie structure really is hard to kind of like remember, because there's a lot of like running through the corridors and like Angela's like being spooky at the end of the hallway, and you know, there's a few moments like that sort of sprinkled in here as Judy finally gets out. It's when Roger and Helen come, or at least Roger comes back, because Roger and Helen were trying to leave the place, and the gate magically disappeared, so it's just a wall around the building now. So they couldn't get out, and Helen just kind of disappeared. So she literally Batmaned out of a scene, and then showed up dead. Like the next time we see Roger waiting in the car, her body just lands on the car. So he comes back in, he frees Judy out of the room she was locked in, and Sal sort of shows up around this time as well. So we get a little chunk of the movie with them all running from the various demons and possessed people around the building until, you know, some big high stakes antics happen on the roof was, I think, the next big stuff.
So like a little bit of credit to the movie. I don't know if this was intentional, but yeah, I was like pretty surprised at the people that, you know, end up surviving the longest. Like, you know, again, we kind of mentioned like, you know, with Roger, you know, kind of subverting that trope of like the black person dying first, and then also again with Sal, like, you know, he seems like he's gonna be, you know, again the more like creepy stalkery guy, that, which I guess technically he is, but you know, like that's usually more of like a bad guy thing, but he's kind of like, you know, saving the day in these parts. So yeah,
actually there's a great line here,
subversion.
Yeah, after Judy gets out of the locked room, they go into the room where Suzanne is with the now, well, he's not dead, you know, he's possessed, I guess, but Sal's lying there dead with his eyes like popped out, and Suzanne's just sitting in the corner. Judy and Roger, I think it is, come into the room, and Judy just looks up and says, "Hey, do you want to have an orgy?" I'm sure if we try, we can get Jay hard again. And he's just lying there with his eyes popped out. I don't know, I got a chuckle out of that. I thought that was kind of funny.
That's funny.
So yeah, they end up, there's a lot of chasing that goes on here. Judy ends up on the roof. Jay jumps down, trying to get out, and she's trying to like sort of drop down.
Not Jay, Roger.
Sorry, Roger. Yeah, Roger's trying to get down. And then Sal jumps out and sort of tackles Angela, who's on the roof as well. And they end up diving off the roof. And I was actually quite surprised here that this is how Sal dies, because he lands on like a bit of a fence or something that goes through his chest. So he's got like a big stake through his heart. So he's dead now at this point. Our two surviving characters end up running down to the crematorium. I actually thought they were a little bit stupid here at a point, because they said, "Hey, what's that door? Maybe it goes somewhere." And then she opens this big metal door and is surprised to find it's the crematorium. And I'm like, you know what building you're in, right? This is not a surprise that this is what it is. Because she puts her hand in and rummages around and finds a skull. And I'm like, why are you... Stop putting your hand in there. Of course you're going to find a skull. It's the most likely place to find a skull. I mean, maybe... Okay, not really. Like, actual crematoriums in the modern day, I'm sure, have very strict health and safety standards and always have to clean them out and so on and so on. But this is a creepy old crematorium. Like, finding a skull in there is about the most likely thing you're probably going to find.
Oh, sure. Yeah. They don't really go too much, or maybe not even at all, into the backstory of this place, but I can assume that there's probably some shenanigans that went down.
There's like a little story at one point, and the only thing that I remember being brought up later, and I don't even know how they knew this, honestly, but early on in the movie, they established there was an underground sort of like river or something, like a stream,
water,
that runs around the perimeter of the building. And at the end of the movie, when they're trying to get over the wall, Judy says, "Oh, we have to get on the outside of the water. Once we're on the outside of the water, we're free, and like they'll be in here, and like they'll go at daytime because they're free to roam around because it's Halloween, but once, you know, it's November 1st, and not at midnight, it'd be like dawn. Once it's dawn in November 1st, they'll just go away. But we get this whole sequence where they're climbing over the wall, and the only thing to climb is barbed wire, so their hands are getting all cut up, and it seems like Roger might ditch her and leave her to die, which would have been a bold choice, but he does come back for her. He does like show up and pull her up and all the rest of it. It's all right. All the zombies are coming at them towards the end, but they get out just in time, and then the sun seemingly melts or kills them all.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
If I do have some minor complaints, it doesn't really affect my enjoyment that much, but two things I really did not like in the movie is I didn't like the demonic voice that they use.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like it sounds very like Saturday morning cartoon, like that seems like an 80s cartoon bad guy where, you know, it's very like I don't know. I can't do it, but you know what I mean. Like it's that type of voice, which just, it doesn't sound scary at all to me. It just sounds like kind of goofy. And then also, yeah, the kind of big skeleton looking demon thing. Yeah, I didn't think that looked great.
Yeah, which never really does much. You see it like at the start on the reflection, and you see it at the end when the sun's coming up. It's like that's what's been sent back to hell. Like that's the thing that's possessed them and stuff. But it's not like you ever see this big skeleton chasing anyone or anything like that. It's not that type of movie. So
It's not that type of movie. No. It's not big giant skeleton chasing you movie.
I'm glad you agree, Tim. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I wish there was a slightly better script where there's like more of a structure to what's happening. Like once things start going down with the possessions.
Yeah, like you were saying that, you know, it's kind of hard to, you know, talk about the events chronologically, and I think part of it is like with these type of movies where there's just like a lot of back and forth. It is kind of hard to, you know, recount it like accurately, because there's so many different characters in different rooms, and then, you know, characters going into previous rooms, and it's a lot of back and forth. Yeah, it's a lot of back and forth with rooms, but also like which characters are with other characters, and it's sort of like back and forth. I think earlier on I said she was with Roger when the orgy line happened, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think that was Sal, because I think Sal jumps out the window in that scene, if I remember correctly. Or gets like pushed out. Yeah,
he gets pushed out the window.
That's right.
So, you know, there's a lot of like back and forth with all the various characters in the same location, so it all kind of blends together a little bit in your head. And, you know, I think we focused on obviously the big set piece moments with the practical effects, the gore, whether it be the eyes, the arm, the weird boob thing that happened.
Forgot to mention there's also you know, Judy gets a little bit of a badass moment with she has some hairspray and a lighter that she lights him on fire, which
Wait, they kind of it's not a hairspray, Tim.
What was it? I forget.
She rips out a pipe, the gas line from the crematorium, and then sets that on fire and creates a flamethrower. Which I mean, it's a good job this place's gas is still flowing in, even though I don't think anyone's paying the bill for it. But you know.
I apologize. I was very tired when I watched this, but it's. I did think that was funny though, because they set it up like very like Chekhov's lighter, like because they have this like weird scene where she like puts like a lighter on the table in the beginning, and Angela's like, oh, like the ghost won't like you littering, and you know you should pick that up, and she's like, I'm not afraid of ghosts, and then Angela leaves.
Is it littering? No, it's a table with like just plates of snacks on it. I don't know. It feels like a weird place to say it's littering, but yeah, okay.
I think of all the things that they're doing, that's probably the least egregious thing that the ghosts or demons are going to care about. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Left the lighter on the table, but hey, you know, it's a good symmetry for the movie where hey, you notice they're picking it up, and you're like, she's going to use that later at some point.
So basically, our two survivors just walk home, and they're walking down the street that we started the movie on. And the old man that we saw at the start is being grumpy, and he sees them walking down the street with their clothes all kind of like dirty and ripped. He's like, out all night? These effing kids. I hate the lot of them. And he goes back inside, and he sits down, and his wife gives him a cup of coffee and some pie. And he starts eating the pie, and she mentions it's homemade, and he's like, when did you do that? During the night? And like, yeah, well, there was so many apples left over, I had to do something with them. And then he starts choking, and then we get this. I would say it's a fun practical effect, but not a good one, because it doesn't look very real. But you see like sort of like blood starting to gush out of wounds on his neck, and then you see a razor blade sort of sticking out of one of them, and then he drops dead, and the wife is basically just like, "Happy Halloween, honey," and kisses him on the head.
Did she do it on purpose? Like,
it seems like she did.
Like,
now, obviously, the big thing here is that there is no way in hell you wouldn't notice the razor blade whilst chewing. Okay.
Yeah, that's always like the weird thing about the urban legend or whatever. Like, is you wouldn't swallow it. Like maybe if you bite into it, it'll like cut your tongue or your gum, which is gonna suck. But like, you would taste it before actually like swallowing.
It would have to be very small to swallow it without noticing. But this guy apparently has like 3 razor blades in his throat when all this starts happening.
And it does the cool thing, which like doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why it really does this, but like you see like there's kind of like these blue veins that like pop up in his neck
like,
before.
I think it's like his neck's supposed to be expanding, so the veins are getting really big.
Okay.
But he's getting cut though. I don't understand why either. It's weird.
It's weird, but it does look cool, but also bad, but also in a fun way.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, even though it makes no sense. But you go along with it because it's a fun bit, and then obviously the wife just been like she expected that to happen. Like, "Happy Halloween, dear." Cut to credits. So, yeah, I think the ending scene almost gives it another whole half point just for leaving you with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
So there you go. That it's they're dressed in Halloween costumes. It's mentioned a few times. Even I guess it's not that important to the plot, other than the fact that the demons will disappear once it's not Halloween anymore because they're allowed to roam free because it's All Hallows Eve. I'm like, okay, all right. So
I mean, I'll be honest. If any filmmakers are listening to this, like, I will probably also give like at least like a half point or something if something gets me in the Halloween mood, and it maybe it's like a little bit of a cop out or something, but even something as simple as just kind of seeing some people in costumes and trick-or-treating and mentioning Halloween, like it puts me in like this, because I just love this time of year so much, and like just anything that kind of reminds me or puts me in this fall October Halloween mood, like it's it's a little bit of a cheat, but it's an easy thing to do that you're already making me happy.
Yeah. It's no Halloween, and it's no Terrifier even at that hour.
Yeah.
Although ours going to Christmas, Terrifier 3 is going to be a Christmas movie. That is freaking awesome. I'm just going to say
I love it. Yeah.
Night of the Demons, fun time. I think it's time we rate the movie, Tim. So what you giving it?
It's I feel like it's something where I do enjoy it the more I watch it, because like I have fun with it, but then I don't always like, again, like I said, like it's not a perennial like must watch October movie, but I do usually like think about it around this time of year, and if I haven't seen it in a while, I'll go like, oh yeah, I should revisit this. Again, it is very cheesy. It is very 80s, but in a good, fun way. The characters are over the top, but I think that's what, makes it very watchable, to the point where, even, like the half hour or 20 minutes or whatever before any horror stuff starts happening, I'm still having a good time, because, these characters are just so dumb, but they're very fun to watch.
If anything, I like that first 20-30 minutes the most, because it's the most structured of the movie.
For sure. And then there's so much like weird little touches that don't make sense, aren't really helping the movie, but that's the kind of like, all the stuff with the brother and stuff that's just like, or like, the mother making those weird like chocolate things, like this does not need to be in the movie at all, but it's this kind of weird stuff that like makes it stand out and be like, oh, like this is fun. And again, it's got those little Halloween flourishes that are getting me in the mood. It makes it sound like sexual or something, but in the mood for Halloween, I should say. So yeah, I mean, I like it. I think I'm just gonna go a smidge below 7. I think I'm gonna give it a 6.5, and the reason I want to go as high as a 7, but I think the problem is like the horror stuff doesn't really wow me. Like the stuff that I really like about this is like the fun characters and their dynamics, and the horror stuff isn't bad. Like there's a few good kills here and there, but a lot of times like I don't think like the demonic transformations are that like impressive. Like it just kind of looks like people with like some like kind of like sharp teeth and a little bit of messed up like expanded features and stuff, but like I don't really like love the looks, and like I was saying, like the voice is like a little too cartoony and stuff for me. I do like a messed up like house that can mess with you, like in that way. Some of the stuff reminded me of Evil Dead, but like I like stuff where it's like, oh, we're trapped, like a gate just magically disappears and we're trapped in this messed up house. That stuff I do like, but I don't know, I wish the demons were almost a little bit more demony. And then like you kind of mentioned before, the other people that get demonized, they don't really have any personality or do much. They're just maybe a tad boring. So that's why I kind of dock at a point, but and don't go like to a full 7. But I still think it's a really good fun time. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's a 6 for me. I think the lack of like momentum and structure once the real plot gets going is too much of a big problem for me to like give it a super high rating of any kind. But the characters are memorable. There's fun practical effects. Like I'd say it's a fun watch around this time of year. But I'd almost recommend it as like put it on as like you say, like a party movie or when you're doing something else. I think if you're sitting just paying attention to it, it's a little lacking in like the actual engagement to really be into the whole time completely. So I think it's a solid 6. It's a 6 that I recommend, but it is still a 6, I would say. And I think the obvious thing to do is do the sequel next year. So next October, I guess we'll maybe not for Halloween night itself like this one, but I think we should do Night of the Demons 2 next October. Sure. I think that sounds like a plan. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Christine Taylor's in the second one, apparently. I don't remember that.
Oh, wow.
So,
interesting.
There you go. That's Ben Stiller's wife or ex-wife. I don't know if they're still married, but sure.
Let us know in the comments, I guess.
What is Ben Stiller in the comments?
Yes, he probably listens.
He's like, yeah, he's going to be like angry. Like, no, we broke up in 2012, you assholes. Like, how
Thanks
dare
for
you?
reminding me.
I'm still heartbroken over it.
If that couple can't make it, what hope do any of us have?
So anyway, that is Night of the Demons. Then that wraps up the Octoberthon. Like we said, patrons also got a bonus movie on Halloween Day as well. That's Primal Rage. There was another bonus movie earlier in the month, and the bonus movies are back now monthly on Patreon. $3 and up, you get access to an extra Screams After Midnight, usually some sort of B movie or something that we think might be fun to watch and talk about. But yeah, check it out. So you can support us over there and get access to that content, and of course you can look forward to regular episodes. In fact, November we will not have any regular episodes of Screams. We're instead going to redo our top 100 horror movies. We laugh at that.
You can look forward to regular episodes. Next month we're not going to do any regular episodes.
Well, they're not regular. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, we'll be doing our top 100 horror movies over the course of November. It's kind of like a break from reviewing movies because we've done so many of them the last, for us it's been about 2 months of recording. Obviously, you've got them all in 1 month. But
yeah, but we didn't skip in October. We did quite a few this month. So
we did. Yeah, we did way more than last year.
Yeah, so I hope you freaks enjoyed it.
So yeah, hopefully you had fun. So November's top 100. That'll be in 3 parts, maybe 4, depending on how we split it up. And then obviously December's Christmas horror movie season, so you'll get at least a couple of Christmas horror movies. And then into January, February, we'll be doing catch up on any 2023 movies we've not done. So if you're wondering where Saw X is, or where Exorcist Believer are, or hell, even Five Nights at Freddy's, don't worry, they're all coming. Not reviewing very well, Tim.
Get you, Barbara.
Five Nights at Freddy's not reviewing very well, but it did make a lot of money opening weekend, so It's a phenomenon, Tim. We got to talk about it.
One of us might have seen it already.
Keep your mouth shut, you filthy spoiler man. We will not be talking about any feelings or anything. Thank you very much.
I'll just say this. Move over. I'm gonna say it's not a spoiler, but I'm just gonna say, move over, Mr. Kruger. Because there's a new Freddy in town.
But it's Freddy's place. He's not one of the monsters. Oh, never mind. Okay.
Freddy absolutely is one of the... What are you talking about? He's one of the animatronics.
Is he? Is one of the bears called Freddy?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Fair enough.
What do you think? It was just like some guy like Freddie Calhoun that just owned the restaurant? Like,
hey, a twist would be that Freddy Krueger built the place, okay? That would actually be an insane little tie-in, but, you know.
Well, unfortunately, we won't be talking about it on the show because it's a video game and you have your own video game podcast, so you and Connor can review that one.
I will not be reviewing the video games of Five Nights at Freddy's, thank you very much. I played the first one for a few hours one night, and that was enough for me to last a lifetime. Thank you very much.
Okay. You're welcome, I guess.
But yeah, you go. That is our final Octoberthon episode. Thank you for joining us this month. Thank you for supporting all the content. So, yeah, we'll see you for the top 100 over the next few weeks, and beyond that, even more stuff. So, thank you once again. Keep watching scary movies. Have a nice Halloween night, and we'll see you next time.